Our next session, Lessons in Catalyzing Change at Scale, Food Service and Hospitality. Please welcome to this stage your moderator, Vice President Corporate Communications, Compass Group USA, and Sheridan, Vice President of Sustainability, Chartwells Higher Education, Monalisa Prasad, Vice President of Sustainability, Levy, Mary McCarthy, Vice President of Wellness and Sustainability, URES, Suzanne Landry, and National Director of Population Health and Sustainability Strategy, Morrison Healthcare, Lisa Roberson.
My name is Ann Sheridan. I work in communications with Compass Group, and for those of you who might not know about Compass Group, we are the leader in food service. We serve 13 million meals every day. So of course, we have a great opportunity in climate. We have a great opportunity, and we have a lot of challenges too. We're not going to get there by reaching our goals by telling fans at a baseball game, you can't have a hot dog. We're not going to get there by telling students no more hamburgers in the cafe in the dining hall. We're going to get there, we believe, by empowering our guests and doing it with joy.
The work we do at Compass can make a real difference in climate-related challenges. We're giving our customers the option to make an impact too. Hi, I'm Chef Jasmine with Chartwells Higher Ed, where we empower our students to eat plant-forward. We started off small with only 500 plant-based recipes, and now we have over 10,000.
Hi, I'm Tim Ways with Morrison Healthcare. We're finding ways to use plants in every way. We're using it as entrees, we're using it as appetizers, we're using it as patient food, we're using it as our main entrees in our retail.
Hi, I'm Chef Meredith with Business and Industry, and we empower America's workforce by creating delicious meals that are sustainably sourced and simple for our guests to order. And every menu has a plant-forward option. And that way our guests can choose what aligns with their values.
Hey, I'm Chef Jared Higgins with Levy Sports and Entertainment Sector. Across the country in our Levy Sports and Entertainment venues, we've eliminated over 650,000 single-use plastic cups. We are empowering our fans with 4 pillars of sustainability: sustainable vessels, sustainable sourcing, menu engineering, and food waste. And it's all gonna taste incredible.
So we kind of wanted to start with our chefs because they're dear to us. They're super important, of course, to our business, the most important part, because we have to lead with delicious, right, in order to reach our climate goals. I want to introduce you a little bit more to the people on our panel. You heard their titles, but I want to tell you a little bit about them and what you're going to hear from them today. So Lisa is first with healthcare. She is going to talk a little bit about how we're empowering patients, not only when they're in the hospital, but after they leave and go home to their families and communities. Suzanne is with B&I. She's going to talk about data and how that's driving a lot of their decisions, and then also creating a buzz in a lot of America's workplaces. And she's also going to tell you about the mistake she made early on in her career, which influences everything she does now. And she told it to me last night while we were having a drink. So you're going to hear about that. Monalisa over here is with Higher Ed. She's going to tell you about some changes happening slowly as we go from, we drive to scale. We start slow and go to scale in Higher Ed. And the one college drink that almost capsized everything for Monalisa in Higher Ed. But I want to start with Mary. So Mary is with our sports and entertainment kind of sector of Compass Group Levy. And it's been such a privilege to talk to all of these leaders. But Mary said something that I thought was great while we were all getting ready. And she said, I believe we can change the way people think about sustainability. And she believes sports and entertainment venues are the perfect place to start. So tell us more.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. And I also want to echo, I'm so glad we started with our chefs. Everything that we're going to talk about today, they're the heart and muscle behind all of the sustainability initiatives that we have. And at Levy, we have the privilege to operate these incredible sports and entertainment venues, convention centers. Our Cultivated team here at the Javits Center is hosting us this week. And I think there's this still untapped potential within that industry, right? We want to link sustainability with these really joyful moments that are happening at a large scale at sports and entertainment venues around the country. And a lot of times folks are coming and they'll come once a year, right, to their favorite sporting event. But what makes me so excited is that across these different sectors that Compass represents, then hopefully someone is getting exposed to a plant-forward menu option at one of our museums or zoos or at a ballpark, thinking a little bit differently about sustainability because it's been linked with this joyful experience, but then seeing it day in and day out in these other sectors, at college dining, at their corporate dining, to really be able to see that stickiness of behavior change that I think we know we need in sustainability.
And you have like you have maybe 60,000 people and 4 hours to capture their attention. That's quite a good audience.
Yeah, and I link it with their favorite sports team, right? So it's both a challenge and an opportunity, right? Something like food waste, you can imagine, is a big challenge for us when we're trying to serve 70,000 people over the course of 4 hours. But there's also real opportunity then to be able to tell that story and create really incredible impact at the same time.
Monalisa, for you, Mary's talking about fans who are there for a number of reasons, and hopefully they are dialed in, but your students in higher ed are definitely dialed in. And you're doing some different things. We have a picture of what's happening on college campuses where we're starting small and then hoping to scale. And it tells a great story. It is not college dining like I had, and probably not like many of us had in the audience. Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And college students are the ones that kind of drive all of our concepts and our makings, right? And Mary said it as well, and you said it. Chefs are at the heart of everything. And the number one thing that we wanted to do was, hey, what can we do in a dining hall to make sure we're automatically just reducing our carbon emissions? That's tough, especially with college students who have so many demands. We came up with a concept that you see on screen. It's Planet Eats. Essentially what is making sure that there is no ruminant meat at all in the dining hall. Yes, so there is no hamburger patty. It came as a little bit of a shock to everybody. We were skeptical too. We were kind of hesitant, like how are students going to approach it? How are they going to like it? But it's been going really well. It's so successful. There's no ruminant meat. We make sure that we have climate labeling as well in the dining halls. That empowers our students, and they know now what they want to put on their plate. It's just all about choice architecture for them. Students were lovely, and they appreciated the concept so much. There were 3 other dining halls on campus that are just your regular dining halls, and all of them were like, yeah, this is our favorite dining hall, and this is where we're going to come and dine every single year of our college life. We're like, whoop. And it was great. And college students absolutely are kind of the driver behind all of it for us, right? So, and the chefs have done an incredible job. And one of our items is a white bean tuna salad. No tuna, but it's all of white beans. So that's where they get their protein from. So it's just such a huge success. And we started small. It's just one dining hall in Western Washington University outside of Seattle in a really beautiful place called Bellingham. And we're now slowly kind of expanding it across the nation as well.
But it almost didn't happen. And we talked about the one drink that the college students at this university kind of thought, you had one problem and then almost didn't go on with Planet Eats. Tell us about that. What was the drink?
Yeah, it was oat milk. So what we did, it was oat milk.
Okay.
I know, it haunts me sometimes. It's lovely. But what we did was, naively, right? What we did was piloted at 5 different locations. We removed all sorts of dairy, and we only kept oat milk as the options. We had so many complaints. I think we ended the pilot, it was supposed to be for 6 months. We ended it in less than 4 days, because that's not what we wanted to do for the students. So hard lessons learned. I love oat milk, but that was not the way to go about it. So all of us kind of learned that lesson of choice architecture, listen to the students, and sustainability can't be forced on someone, right? You can't force it on your students. So how do you provide them with those choices and empower their decision-making skills? That's kind of what we learned through that whole process. And now we have Planet Eats. The one thing it personally taught me was patience and perseverance in all things you do for sustainability. So just keep being patient, but also persevere at the same time.
Nice.
So.
Nice. All right, Suzanne, that kind of leads me to you. While Monalisa was learning from some mistakes they made, and then they decided, yes, we're still going to take another risk with Planet Eats, you wanted to also educate your guests, and you took it from a marketing standpoint. You thought, how do we influence behavior? You brought in a big gun. You brought in Sam Kass to kind of help you. And for those who might not know, Sam Kass was President Obama's senior policy advisor for nutrition, so certainly would have a lot to add to B&I and to what you all would do next. You all met, and he kind of told you some trade secrets that I think no matter what industry you're in the audience, you might learn from what you guys learned from Sam.
Yeah, so we were really lucky to work with Sam Kass, and he's an amazing human and chef and advisor. And for us, we want to be really thoughtful about how we approach our menu strategy because it matters so much. And there's so much that goes into when we think about driving towards our net zero commitment. So if you have a plate of food, what you see, there's so much behind that. It's how the ingredients are sourced and where they're from. It's the carbon impact, so we know from beef to plants and the spectrum in between all has a varying impact. And then also what vessel we use when we serve that meal. And so there's all these different things, and sometimes it can be overwhelming when we think about the influence that we can have across the world. And so Sam's great advice was to take a step back, and his advice was keep it simple and focus on flavor. And I love that because you can even think about that at home. So what can you do that makes the greatest impact at scale? So for us, kind of like your burger example, what he said is if you offer a beef burger 5 times a week, what if you do it 4 times a week? And what if it's a 5-ounce burger and you replace an ounce of that with mushrooms? You can have up to a 20% impact, which is pretty dramatic. And then I also thought it was kind of fun too when he was talking about flavor. So if you came up to my chef table, I would want to tell you how amazing this recipe was, that it was my Nana's, that it's root to stem to mitigate waste to landfill, you know, because of methane, and it has a lower carbon impact. And there's all these amazing stories that we care so deeply about. But he said, what if you just say, this is the most delicious meal and I made it for you? And that's it, because people are coming for lunch. And I think about that often, right? Because I do still have QR codes and information because we really do care. But I think keep it simple and focus on flavor.
And your chefs bought in. That puts them kind of like on the spotlight.
Right, right. And they take it personally because they want their food to be a wow for guests. So for them, that takes the pressure off having to be sciencey about it. And it's just part of everything we do, and it's integrated to our strategy.
Actually, I felt like the governor spoke that way too. Just a really simple message, and it was clear and very approachable, and I think that's kind of what you're saying too. Lisa, in healthcare, it leads me to you. Compass One has several audiences, because you have, of course, patients who are in the hospital, and then you have a retail part too, families visiting, the staff, doctors, nurses, people who work in the hospital. And you found also that a positive message works best in healthcare as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, I'm gonna just go right out and say healthcare is a really tough crowd, guys. It's tough. People are going through a lot of things. Our chefs really started with our mission to increase plant-centered eating. And so they knew it had to be appealing, delicious. I think that's great advice, Suzanne. Focus on the flavor. But we also have to meet people where they are. And in this case, in hospitals, sometimes like having a really advanced plant-based palette is not where our average hospital goer is. So like we come to the cafe, you're looking for something to eat, you're thinking, oh, I want to eat something, I'm in a hospital. You feel sort of driven to pick something that's good for you. So how do we start with that base? So our chef said, hey, let's start with a really familiar menu style, taking the concept that people are comfortable with, but then taking out the burgers and making the star ingredient a plant-based item, just a really awesome plant food. So corn, tomatoes, mushrooms, beets, things that people haven't really tasted. And then just putting 4 or 5 menu items, really simple ones together. So when you're in the hospital looking for that item, you see like a really fun pop-up station, you're like, huh, this is weird. I like this. This says keep it cool, Collie Club. And you're like, okay. And then you see a dish and you smell it. It's spiced cauliflower with black beans and avocado on a bed of cauliflower rice. And it's actually the going back to Collie bowl, right? So for you really vintage LL Cool J fans out there, we make it kind of funny and interesting. All caps is our mushroom concept, and it's actually our most popular concept, which I find really interesting. And one of the star hits is It's Pretty Fly for a Fungi crispy oyster mushroom salad, right? Like who doesn't want to try that? So we make it really fun for people to be attracted to it. And it's really working because not only are we doing it in our hospital cafes, but we're bringing this to our patients. And the way we bring it to our patients is through our heartfelt hospitality program. So the meals roll up in a cart, and on the outside of the cart, it's wrapped in messages, and the messages says, I love you more than I love food. And then they get to choose this really great item. It makes it a lot of fun. And so people just feel really happy about making the choices. It doesn't feel like a punishment in a hospital.
You're redefining sampling.
Right.
Yeah. Like it, to the patient's room. All right, I want to talk about the importance of scaling, starting small and then scaling, because if I'm in the audience, if I'm you and we're talking about how many meals we serve a day, that's really, we're a large, complex company, and we have a lot of work to do, and we realize that, and we're doing a lot of good work. But we're doing it by starting small. And I think, Mary, you talk a little bit about that. You have some great reusables.
Yes.
So you're going to show us those. I think it's interesting, too, because fans are coming into a game, and they are there to watch their team. They're maybe looking for Taylor Swift. They're not looking for the bin to put their reusable in. So how do you do that? How is it working? And like, do you think you really can win?
Yes, absolutely. So reusables are one of the sustainability solutions that I'm the most excited about, and part of it is because it's having this explosive growth within the sports and entertainment industry. And I guess I'll start by saying, like, these are cups that have been around forever, and so it's not the innovation of the product that is so interesting and exciting, but we're seeing systems be put in place that are really making reusables viable. So packaging for all of us, I think, is a challenge. There's often trade-offs between material types, and it's not until we get to reuse that we can kind of get out of that take, make, waste cycle. But in order for it to work, we need to get the reusables back, right? We need to be using the same items over and over again. And so I give a shout out to the Moda Center, which is where the Portland Trailblazers play. They were the first to really figure out how to put these reuse systems in place. They started in just one part of their building, figured out how the material needed to flow. The next season, they went venue-wide with their cups. So that first pilot, 11,000 vessels. After their first season of going venue-wide, there were 359 plastic cups avoided from landfill. So that's sort of how we scale within a building that's serving 20,000 people. But what makes me even more excited about it is now Portland has a hub for reuse, right? The Moda Center served as this anchor venue, and we're seeing reusables at the convention center, at the zoo, at Providence Park, which is where the Major League Soccer team plays. And now we're starting to see that model popping up and replicating in other places. So in Kansas City, perhaps not the first city you'd think of doing this, the Kansas City Current, which is the National Women's Soccer League team there, just opened their first ever women's purpose-built sports center, right? So it's an incredible stadium, and they built it with sustainability in mind. So this cup is from them, and they will never sell a single-use cup at the Kansas City Current. Wow. They opened with reusables. So it's this incredible claim that they can make. They've set the benchmark for that area, and now again in Kansas City, there's this hub, there's this anchor. And so we're seeing all of the other venues in that market start to take up reusables. We started in one city, one venue. We've got 4 cities, a 5th that will be coming online in October across 8 venues. 650,000 vessels kept out of landfill through that. And I think when we're here next year, we'll be talking in the millions. Like, the growth is really just exponential, and it's about putting those systems in place. And just as an opportunity for you to all try this out, the Javits Center and our team here at Cultivated is piloting reusables for the first time during the Nest Campus event, so you can follow the good behavior. This is what your lunch is served in if you're at the Garden Eatery. Please put them back in the reuse bin. We will then gather them, wash them, and reuse them, just like we do all of our other reusable programs.
Okay, I have 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
When you talk about the team that said, no, we're only going to use reusable, who did you have to get to buy in? Because that's a pretty lofty decision. So how did you all negotiate that?
Yeah, and I think it's true for a lot of sustainability programs. What we need is alignment, and we need everyone on the same page. So a venue, I'm sure, is a microcosm of a lot of the organizations that we work in and partner with, where we need the venue owner, right? In this case, it was the Trailblazers and the city of Portland. They really said, this is important for us. They kind of put that challenge out to everyone who participates in that venue to say, how do we figure out reuse? And then it was our team, obviously we were purchasing them, managing the inventory, serving the guests. Even like the janitorial team at the building has to be on board. But then it is really about guests. And I think one of the themes you'll hear from us is, how do we make this as easy as possible for the guests, right? We might have a fan who's had a drink or 2, right? They're there for the team. They're not there to walk around the building and try and find the right bin. So we need to make it as easy as possible for them. And it's only when all of those partners are working together that we can really do that.
And you're doing that here at Javits.
Yes, yeah, it's really exciting. All right.
Suzanne, let me ask you. You said to me, you can't hit people over the head with sustainability. It's a great story. What did you mean by that?
Well,
Tell us what you learned.
We were laughing about this last night. What I mean by that is, when about 10 years ago here in New York City, I was a dietitian, or am a dietitian, and I was asked to come to a client office because over the weekend they had decided they were going to remove the fryers. And so they called me in back when I was sweet and innocent to convince everyone why we should have fryers. And when I got there, no kidding, they were picketing outside the marketplace in the hallway with like their own signs that they had made, bring back the fries. So there I am, and through that experience I learned that choice definitely matters, and so making sure that we are mindful of that is important.
And you're using data now to make some of your decisions, which also helps. Tell us about that.
Yes, so we have been very thoughtful in our approach of how, again, we're going to focus on our menu design. So first and most important is we survey our guests. So when they're thinking about having more plant-forward items, what is it that's the most important to them? And flavor came up as the most important. They also, if there was a new introduction of a product, they wanted to be able to taste it. And ultimately, they want variety. So that makes sense, we all do. They don't want to just see the same item offered every day. They want it to change up. Some other things we did is the Edgy Veggie Toolkit from Stanford, if you've heard of that. Basically, the idea is to make something sound, instead of mundane, much more exciting, and so you can almost taste it when you read the menu item. So for example, veggie burrito, you would change it to loaded Mediterranean vegetable burrito with everything you love. That's wonderful. That type of thing. You really sort of get the vibe.
Tell us that again and do the same movements if you would.
Yeah. So what we found is in some cases, that did help, and we think in the future that will be good through technology where there isn't someone on our team there to interact. We've talked about the blended burger with the beef and the mushroom. So when we know, like you were talking about, Monalisa, that choice architecture definitely matters. So how you set up the menu on a menu board, how you set up your station, we've seen that for many years. But we took it a step further. And so imagine I am your grill cook, and you come up to the station and you ask me for a burger. So say, can I have a burger? No. How do you feel? So that probably wouldn't work in most cases. Okay, so say again, can I have a burger?
Okay.
Yes, I can give you my daily special that is the same price with juicy beef and earthy mushrooms. Is that good? So you're just nudging people towards a shift.
Yeah.
And then we've done other things, but I just wanted to, since you mentioned the oat milk, what we did was, even though Sam said keep it simple, we just were trying like one more thing to try. We took vegan items because we know that protein is really important to guests, that when it's vegan or more plant-based, they might think that they're gonna be hungry and it's not gonna have protein. So what we did is we created marketing that had and called out the amount of protein in those good sources of, you know, veggie burgers or things like that. We didn't see a shift. That didn't seem to have an impact. But what we know is that from that overall approach, using our proprietary carbon footprint tool, we did demonstrate that we were able to lower carbon impact. So we are finding it a huge win.
That was the goal. Did you tell Sam?
We have a full write-up.
Good, all right. All right, Lisa, you also have had a lot of big wins. You talked about some of your popular concepts already, but you also had a secret weapon, and we have a slide, a photo that we want to show, and it's kind of, you brought in an important part of the audience, but you might not think about doing this in healthcare. So tell us about that and what this picture represents.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are a couple of our chefs, and they're out in the fields talking to this small local strawberry farmer. He's an organic farmer. They have a whole operation. They do strawberries, they do desserts, they do teaching moments in kitchens. They're really passionate. We bring fresh strawberries into one of our hospitals in this market. And it's just an amazing strategy. If you ever want to see a chef just get so happy, bring him to a farmer, right? Because they love to talk about farm ingredients, and it makes sense. So you guys think it doesn't make a difference sometimes. Think about your grandma's soup, or you know, the things that you eat that are cooked with love. When our chefs connect with the farmers, that means that they're looking at the best ingredients, and once they source the best ingredients, it really makes the dish that much better. It's really like a secret sauce. So our chefs talk to farmers, and you wouldn't imagine that in some of our locations, we actually have a farm to cafe program, or even a farm to patient bedside program. And it's really incredible. So they source locally, seasonally, when possible, and also we look at sustainable ingredients. We look at purchasing from small farms, from producers of color, from operations that support animal welfare, that support farmer welfare. It's really important. And it brings a new twist. We actually have a concept, one of our concepts is called Callaloo. And it's like a Jamaican, it's like a tropical vibe on our concept that's in the cafe, and we actually serve it to our patients as well. But through these kinds of partnerships with our chefs, we were able to actually get Callaloo greens, which is very similar to like a spinach, but it's a really neat variety, and serve that in our hospitals. So it's really great. Chefs are part of our strategy. People love a chef. If you're in a hospital bed and you're like, I need something better, they want to see that chef. They want to hear that chef. They want to see where that food comes from. It gets people excited, and I think that's really important in healthcare.
I think it would be a challenge to change that belief that in hospitals the food can't be delicious, but to see how you're doing it, and no differently really than in sports and entertainment, or B&I, or in education. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Monalisa, we talked a little bit about customers, but you two, and our guests, but you two looked at things a little differently. You said, you know what, we can't just make it about chefs and guests. You brought in another whole group, and you found that to be really successful in higher ed. Tell us about.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we, of course, are serving our students, but again, what happens behind the scenes is our operators. So can never forget what an operator and the chef does. So you heard Chef Jasmine earlier, kind of increased our kind of core set of plant-based recipes from 500 to 10,000 over the last couple of years, have all of them kind of climate friendly and all of those, but we're like, okay, do the chefs and operators understand why we're doing it? That's number one. And how do we make their lives easier? So what happens in a college campus is you're serving about 6,000 meals in probably 3 hours. Students are on the go, they're rushed, and operators are just running around for those 2 or 3 hours. How do we make an operator's and chef's life much easier? So kind of providing them the toolkit, make sure that all of the recipes are available for them. How do they access it? We have a, again, proprietary kind of software called MenuWorks. Just made sure that it's very easily accessible to them. What we did is all the plant-based recipes now come up right up the top. So then they can go in and select as to what they want to menu. And it's just easier for them to make those swaps again, right? So they don't have to go in and look into our database of thousands and thousands of recipes. It's right up top, much easier for them. And that whole North Star, I keep telling all of our operators and chefs, understand what your North Star is. This is why you're going towards plant-based. The reason we're doing this is to reduce our food-related greenhouse gas emissions, and you play such a critical role in it. But your life is now easier. You can go ahead, do the magic behind, I am not going to wear a chef hat or an operator hat. You do that, but I want to make sure that your lives are easier for those especially busy 3 hours of your day, right? So that was number one for us right there. And then again, you mentioned students, and they're our heart of the business. Meeting the students where they're at, which is their phones. They're always looking down, always on their phones. So no matter how many signs I put up, they're not going to read it. They're just going to go past it. So we made sure that they can understand and see what's on the menu on their phones, even before they can come into the dining hall. So they have, again, that informed kind of empowering decision for themselves before they even come into the dining hall, because again, they have probably 30 seconds when they come in. And they need to rush. So again, just making it really simple for our operators and guests.
And with those students, you're influencing them now as students, but then they go into the workforce, they go to a sports venue,
Exactly.
hopefully just visiting somebody in a hospital, but they're in the whole life cycle. Really.
Exactly. You kind of see the life cycle right here, right? Which is very interesting. They go through. Our students today are going to be your workforce tomorrow and your guests tomorrow, and hopefully not too long in senior living and healthcare, but they're there. So.
I think one of the big things we do need to address, and we realize it as a challenge in our business, is reducing food waste. We do a lot of work around it. There's much more to be done. But Mary, I'd like to talk with you on that. You have such a great opportunity when you have 70,000 guests in a stadium. How are you tackling it? You know, what are the challenges, and do you think you can be successful?
Yes, I mean, we have to be successful,
Right.
so we're working very hard on it. Reducing food waste is the foundation of our sustainability strategy. All of these great things we're talking about around local sourcing, sustainable sourcing, plant-forward eating, if that food's getting thrown away at the end of the night, we've missed the mark. And so it really has to be our top priority, and it is an acute issue in our industry in particular. And so what we're doing right now is really focusing on how do we, one, make sure we're making progress. We have a commitment to reduce our food waste by 50% by 2030. So how do we collect data to make sure we're doing that? But through that data collection, we just don't want data for the sake of it. We want it to be a tool for our team members to make behavior changes. So what happened, last week when we had a spike in overproduction? Was it that we had some new team members at one of the concession stands and they panicked and overproduced pretzels and nachos when there was a long line, right? So how do we start to just bring it to the forefront of all of our team members' minds when they're thinking about the work that they're doing each day? And one of the things that I found talking to our team members is all of them want to do the right thing, right? They just need to feel empowered and equipped, particularly around food waste. Like, it weighs heavy on our team members' hearts when they have to throw food out at the end of the event. And so how do we just help them get the tools to make sure that that doesn't happen? Reduction first, but then we want to have all the diversion strategies that we can possible, food donation, composting, that type of thing.
It's an important question, so I want to ask everyone. Monalisa, will you tell us what you're doing?
Absolutely. So ours was a little bit of a different story. We track for sure, do all of that, but we wanted to motivate our, again, operators to make it better. So what we did is in March this year, and we're going to do it every semester for us, is we led a competition. It was a March Madness competition based off of March Madness. Kind of pit all of our chefs against each other and make sure that A, you're recording your waste because you need to know what's going into waste. And then now we're kind of setting targets for them, going towards that 50% by 2030 reduction. Again, making sure they're competing against each other. Our chefs love a good competition. So how do we make sure we take that as an advantage and make sure that we continue to go through that progress?
Nice, healthy competition.
Yeah,
all right,
sure.
Suzanne.
I would say going back to keep it simple, for us, when it's just the sustainability team, it's not going to have as big of an impact. It's when we made it all of our leadership at all levels of our business, we make it reducing food waste a priority. That's when we have the greatest traction and we're seeing the biggest difference.
Lisa.
We have just a three-pronged approach. The first is through purchasing, and we have this rule, it's called the rule of 5. It means that at the beginning, when you bring an ingredient in the door, it better have 5 applications. So carrots, a side of carrots, pureed carrots for a smoothie, a soup, a carrot hummus, a carrot slaw. It has to have the 5 different applications, or else we don't bring it in. So we don't want to waste any of our ingredients. And then second, it's menuing, menu re-engineering. The concepts that we talk about, the really fun concepts, they're root to stem. So we use our beets for the beet salad, make a beet hummus, but then the greens on the beets also get incorporated into that salad. And then last but not least, it's just like Mary said, it's like everybody said, we all use the same program. It's Waste Not, it's our proprietary food waste reduction program. It's incredible. We empower our chefs to make decisions to compost scraps, to donate unused portions, and lastly, to upcycle. So where we have recipe ingredients that can still be used again, we put them into another recipe and make sure they get enjoyed in a different dish. So
what I'm hearing from all of you is this incredible buy-in from every single person. And when you said, Mary, even folks working in concessions, to make sure that everybody is on board, everybody understands the why. Tell me a little bit about that. How hard is it to get all levels of the organization to understand the why, and how do you do it?
Yeah, it's just so important that we do that because we certainly think of every job as a sustainability job. A shout out to Project Drawdown, and they have a great report about how every job is a climate job. But I don't think most folks know how to take action on that, right? And particularly around the food and agriculture system, which I think in the context of the broader climate movement is still relatively misunderstood, or there's just like a lack of awareness about it. So we just have to start with education. I spend a lot of time at our locations talking to our team members, training them, helping them just understand what an incredible impact something like reducing food waste can do. And then I always want to be really honest with them about the magnitude of the challenges that we're facing, right? The urgency of the challenge, but then leave them empowered and equipped to take action, right? So that person who's working in a concession stand understands, what do I have to do differently in my job to affect change? And it might be relatively simple things, right? We have very detailed outlines of how many nachos you should prepare at different points of a 7-inning stretch, right? Follow that. We've got data behind it, right? So there's relatively simple things that you can do, but if people don't understand how that action is connected to this positive sustainability impact, then I think that's usually the missing link it's our job to make.
Yeah. Storytelling and a lot of passion.
Yeah, exactly.
Suzanne, you looked at marketing as well, and a lot of what you're saying is you can tell that you really are paying attention and working with those teams. You spent a year, though, doing research on consumer insights, learning more about what consumers want, how to change behavior, and making it fun. Tell us about the research that you did and how Street Eats also came about from that. And we have a video too that you can talk over. And we can
So I think creating fun and engagement, because who doesn't want to come to the office or wherever you work and have a mocktail and hang out with your friends and have great music and lighting? And so what we did was, again, focusing on flavor, we created a concept called Street Eats. And this is a program that you can see there's a pop-up food truck. So it's something that's unexpected that we brought to the marketplace based on cuisine from around the world and America's favorite items. And what we did is we also made them plant forward. So we made it fun. So here, you know, as you think about like coming to the office, all of a sudden there's a food truck and we can turn this into a fun event. So I think really when we think about food, it is how we position it, it's how we place it, it's how we care about it. There's a lot that goes into it, but that will definitely drive participation towards all these items that we're talking about is when we make it fun.
When your guests see something like Street Eats, are they drawn to it? Are they more likely to go and purchase and participate?
Again, so one thing we've learned is not just talking about the carbon impact of those choices like I mentioned, but really just focusing on how delicious it is. Because for us, the priority is making it delicious, because I've learned this too in wellness, that if someone doesn't eat the food that we want them to and change their behavior, we're not gonna make a difference. So we wanna make it absolutely as amazing as possible, and that's how we're gonna drive change.
Leading with delicious.
Leading with delicious.
All right. All right. As we're kind of wrapping up, I was wondering if all of you would tell me your top 3 takeaways that you believe as someone who is committed and passionate about sustainability and climate change. What are your 3, Monalisa?
Absolutely. I think to start off, you've heard me again, start small. Don't be afraid to do that, for sure. Don't listen to the naysayers, or maybe listen to them, but make sure that you change them to become that positive force in a bit. And then always kind of bring in your operators and chefs. They're crucial for us. So in any kind of business, just bring in the whole team really for it.
All right. Lisa?
Yeah, so make it fun, make it delicious, and really be unexpected. You know, be unexpected, shake it up, and empower people to make the sustainable choice the easiest decision they made all day. And when we do that, it's successful.
Suzanne?
I think we were all saying the same thing. Keep it simple, focus on flavor, and have fun along the way.
Mary?
I already mentioned one of mine. Every job is a sustainability job, and I think it's sometimes easy to sort of let sustainability get siloed within a particular department, but I think we have to push back against that urge and really empower and equip our team members. I think always helping folks take the next manageable bite, particularly when we have such diverse operations, both within our sectors and across different regions. We've got folks that are on very different places on their sustainability journey, so I try not to judge where someone is at on that journey, but just help them take that right next step, whether they're just starting or leading. And then we've all said it, make it joyful, make it fun. Food should be enjoyable and delicious, and I think when we link sustainability with that delicious food, that's where we're really gonna have the most impact.
Well, you all were terrific. I've gotten to know them like just in the last couple of weeks or so, because we all live in different parts of the country. But I've enjoyed learning from all of you. I hope all of you did too. We are on a journey. We know that. And we hope that some of what we shared today helps you on your journey as well. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.